Now, have you ever been in an argument with your partner and thought, I know I'm supposed to validate their feelings, but right now I don't even like what they're saying? Or maybe you've heard relationship advice that says, just validate your partner's feelings. And you're sitting there thinking, how am I supposed to validate them when I feel like they're blaming me? Now, if that's you, you're not alone. And today, I want to explain why validation feels so difficult when you're hurt and why it doesn't mean you're a bad partner. Now, one of the biggest misconceptions about validation is that people think validation means agreement, and it doesn't. Validation simply means acknowledging that someone's emotional experience makes sense from their perspective. That's it. You're not saying they're right. You're not admitting guilt. You're not saying you agree with their interpretation. You're simply saying, I can understand why you feel that way. But see, here's the problem. When we're emotionally wounded, validation doesn't feel like acknowledgement. It feels like surrender. Now, think about what happens during conflict. Your partner says, I don't feel important to you. What you hear, though, is you're a selfish person. Your partner says, I felt hurt when you didn't call. And what you hear is you're a terrible partner. Your partner says, I need more from you emotionally. And what you hear is everything you're doing isn't enough. So now you're no longer responding to what they actually said. You're responding to the emotional meaning your nervous system assigned to it. And that emotional meaning often comes from old wounds, old fears, insecurities, and old experiences. This is where I often talk about the difference between the hurting ear and the healed ear. See, the hurting ear hears criticism where there may be concern. It hears rejection where there may be disappointment. It hears attack where there may simply be a request for connection. So when your partner is sharing pain, your nervous system becomes busy defending itself. And when you're busy protecting yourself, it's incredibly difficult to create space for someone else's emotions. Now think about it this way. Imagine someone is throwing water on your face. You're probably not focused on helping them. You're focused on stopping the water. That's what emotional hurt feels like. When we feel flooded, attacked, misunderstood, or judged, our brain shifts into self-protection. And self-protection often sounds like, that's not what happened. You're leaving out your part. You're being unfair. What about what you did? Not because you're trying to be difficult, but because your emotional brain is trying to survive the moment. Now, this is why validation is often less about communication skills and more about emotional regulation. Because if I can't calm my own hurt, I won't have enough emotional capacity to hold yours. And this is something many couples don't even realize. They're trying to validate while they're still emotionally activated. That's like trying to read a book while running a sprint. Your body isn't in the right state for it. So what do you do instead? First, slow down. You don't have to validate immediately. Take a breath. Notice what you're feeling. Ask yourself, am I reacting to what my partner said, or am I reacting to what I think it means about me? That's a powerful question, because often those are two different things. Second, remember that validation is not confession. You can validate someone's feelings without accepting responsibility for everything they're saying. For example, I can understand why that felt hurtful to you. Or, I can see why you interpreted it that way. Or, that makes sense given your experience. See, notice none of these statements require you to agree. They simply communicate understanding. And finally, remember this. Validation is often hardest when it's needed most. When relationships are struggling, both partners are usually carrying hurt. Both people want understanding. Both people want reassurance. Both people want to feel seen. The challenge is that hurt people often struggle to offer what they desperately need themselves. And if you've ever found yourself thinking, why can't I just validate my partner? The answer may not be that you don't care. It may not be that you're selfish. It may simply be that your own pain is getting in the way. And until we learn how to recognize and soothe that pain, validation will continue to feel impossible. Not because we don't love our partners, because hurt has a way of making self-protection louder than connection. Now, if this resonates with you, I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Now, have you ever noticed that validation becomes harder when you're feeling hurt or misunderstood? And if you're interested in learning more about how emotional wounds affect communication, connection, and intimacy, be sure to subscribe because that's exactly what we talk about around here. And I'll see you in the next video.